Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me, as always, my friend from our past lives. But in this life, we're enemies. It's Matt Freeman. How's it going today, Matt?
I want to get you on a slow boat to China so I can kill you.
I don't know how to react to that.
It's okay. I'm just kidding. We love each other.
This week on the show, our series Deconstructing the Films of Paul Thomas Anderson continues with the director's sixth feature film. We are talking about 2012's The Master. Oh my goodness, Matt. This is definitely going to be a conversation. That's for sure.
I have been looking forward to this conversation for weeks now. And now that we're here, I don't really know what we're going to say, but it's going to be interesting.
It certainly is going to be interesting, but before we get into The Master, Matt, we have to. I know what everyone is actually here for. What everyone wants to know: did Scott watch K-pop Demon Hunters?
That's right.
And the answer is yes, I did.
And what did you think?
And it's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
I liked it too. Yeah,
it was fine. It was fine. It was fun. I thought the writing was pretty sharp. I thought the songs were actually decent. Like, I'm not gonna be a K-pop fan now, but I actually put them on for my son, and he wasn't that interested. It made me realize that I don't think the songs work when I'm just listening to them. I don't like them, but in the film, in the context of what was happening in the movie, I think they worked pretty well.
What's funny is I agree with you, but apparently those songs are the top charting K-pop songs of all time.
Yeah.
After, just a few weeks of the movie being out. So apparently people who like K-pop really like these songs. And yet again, it's funny because it's I guess not all things are for me specifically.
Yeah.
But which is cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's getting its success.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you talked about last week about this being a bubble that up until 7 days ago, I didn't even know existed, because this thing is huge. It not only has it been top of the list of Netflix since it came out, but it has it doubled itself each week in that. It's just getting more and more popular as it goes. And yeah, not only is the movie the top of Netflix, but I think on Spotify the album is now on or near the top, not just in K-pop, but just in Spotify.
Yeah. I mean, one thing we didn't mention is the simple fact that this is an original thing. There's not a K-pop Demon Hunters cartoon. There's not, it's not a video game adaptation. It's just, they had this idea. They were people like K-pop. we can
people
make a musical.
Demons. People like hunting.
People like ninja women with cool ethereal weapons. And we're just going to make a cool, it's a fresh concept. It's adjacent to a bunch of things you've seen before, but not quite anything you've seen before. It felt fresh, and I think just repeating ourselves at this point, but just it has that honest heart to it. It's not canned. It's what it's saying is simple, not groundbreaking, but it's honest. It feels honest.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's a good time. It's good to see people are really liking this. I asked my sister about it, and my niece, who is 14, it's her favorite movie of the year. So yeah, this is everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yep.
So yeah, check it out on Netflix. I think it's worth the time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now that we've gotten the important things out of the way, let's talk about Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master.
There will be people on the outside who will not understand the condition you men have. Now, upon your shoulders rests the responsibility of a post-war world.
And smile.
You can start a business, filling station, grocery, or hardware store. Get a few acres of land and raise some chickens.
You have a break coming?
10 minutes?
If the average civilian had been through the same stresses that you have been through, undoubtedly, they too would have developed the same nervous condition.
You must understand. You want to get the lake back. How did I get down here?
You're acting aggressive because you drank too much alcohol.
What do you do?
I am a writer, a doctor, a nuclear physicist, a theoretical philosopher. But above all, I am a man, just like you.
Matt, what is this movie all about?
A naval veteran arrives home from war unsettled and uncertain of his future until he is tantalized by a cult and its charismatic leader.
Okay, good joke, but like, what is this movie actually about?
It's about when there's like a friend that you have who's way more charismatic than you, and like and that dynamic. That's what it's about.
This movie was written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Amy Adams, who are all three nominated for Academy Awards for this picture. 0 wins there. No wins. Ridiculously.
Yeah. I don't know.
It makes me mad, actually. It makes me, in fact, so mad that I'm going to look up who won the Academy Awards
That's always healthy.
right now. Because it's just gonna let's do it. All right, okay. Daniel Day-Lewis won for Lincoln. All right, whatever. Christoph Waltz won for supporting actor for Django Unchained. That seems kind of fair, I guess.
Seems okay. Yeah.
And Anne Hathaway won for Les Mis instead of Amy Adams. Now I'm mad. I'm mad.
Good. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
We found it.
Yeah. Amy Adams still does not have an Oscar, which seems just absolutely insane.
It is insane. I agree.
I'm doing all this to avoid getting into talking about the movie because I'm a little intimidated, to be honest with you. This movie is a lot of things, but it's also very difficult, I think, to talk about because it's kind of one of the most insane movies of all time. I think it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It has incredible performances, but it is damn near indecipherable at times. Like,
yeah,
what is a dream? What is a dream? What's going on? What is this about? What are these characters' motivations? Why?
Yeah. So my opening comment basically was that I've been excited about this conversation for weeks, and that's true. In fact, I was reflecting on the fact that this was the movie that I was most excited for us to get to when we started this series.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking, like, well, why is that? Like, I've literally only watched the movie once about the time when it came out, and I've just always I think about it a weird amount, not like obsessively or anything, but just I probably think about The Master at least once a month for some reason. There's some situation reminds me of it, or whenever maybe one thing is like anytime I'm reminded of Philip Seymour Hoffman or Joaquin Phoenix, I think about this, the extremely arresting scenes in this movie, the weird stuff. And I find this has been a thing with me. Maybe this is true of you as well, is like stuff that I don't quite know what to do with, what bin to put it in, tends to stick with me longer because it is the very fact that the movie is so inscrutable, perhaps, that has led it to stick with me for so long. Yeah. And now that we're here having this conversation, I weirdly am like extremely unsure of what I think about the movie, or like you said, what's happening. Is what we're seeing actually real? The sort of practical storytelling logistics. I'm like, I really like the part when, like, it's hard. It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really fascinating like concept of a film because our main character Freddy is so aloof and untethered to so much of what's happening around him that like trying to follow what is actually occurring in the movie almost drives you insane. And like, I agree with you. Like there are certain movies that I love that like I watch and I like get it. And I understand the central message here. I understand the theme. I love the theme. I love how you told the theme and I get it. And this is one of my favorite movies. But there are some movies where I'm like, I leave the movie going, that was brilliant. I have no idea what it's doing. And that's how I've always felt about this movie. That like if someone were to stop me on the street and say, "Here's $1 million, explain to me why the master is good," I would be like, I can't do that. And now I have to try to do it here in front of a microphone for a few hundred people. I adore this movie. I absolutely do. But I watched it twice, which I don't normally do for Doofcast. I normally really only have time to watch the movie one time before we sit down and record. I watched it twice because I finished watching it the first time. I was like, I don't know. I can't talk about this movie with someone right now. I have no idea. I'm not even sure of like the basic plot elements of and what did and didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so like I watched it again and I feel a little bit more confident now, but not much.
I think the most successful level on which it's operating is simply not the level of narrative.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that sticks with you about the movie is really on the level of individual scenes.
Yes.
And the power of the movie resides within the scene, and then the scenes actually connect to each other really poorly. You're actually you're almost like from scene to scene, the characters are almost inconsistent. This is one thing I think we remarked on is at various times, Freddie Quell seems mentally challenged. He seems highly disturbed, almost psychotic. And then there are other moments when he just seems like a normal guy, maybe a little, slightly pensive or troubled, but not just a completely different dude. And then you ask yourself, like, okay, so practically speaking, is one of those scenes a dream and the other one reality, or is one of them fantasy, perhaps not necessarily a dream, or is it really just like, no, it all actually happened that way. It's just that he is this kind of amorphous, malleable character.
Yeah,
and I literally don't know. So
yeah. I one of the things that I was very unclear on is like how much time passes over the course of this movie. Because if you would have asked me 3 days ago, I would have said, "Oh, Freddy's probably with them for years." But like Amy Adams is pregnant for like the whole fucking movie.
Right.
So it's really just like maximally 9 months that Freddy was with them. And that like threw me off really, because it's like, okay, so what is like, how much of this is happening? And one of the things that like I really, really couldn't get over in the movie is near the very end, Freddy has gone home to see Doris finally, and he finds out that Doris is gone. She's married someone else and has children. And then we cut and we see him next in a movie theater, passed out. And then within the movie theater, an usher walks up to him with a telephone and what has to be 100 feet of telephone cord to say, "You've got to call and it's the master, it's Dodd, who's called you and is inviting you to come to London, where he has a school." And then we leave that scene and we cut to him going to London. And I'm like, that couldn't have happened. That's like, no, not only does it make zero sense that Dodd knew that Freddy was passed out in a movie theater and knew exactly which movie theater and at which time, but no usher in a movie theater is going to walk into the theater with a extremely long length of wire connected to a phone to hand him the phone for a random phone call. That's so just not going to happen.
So that he can take the call in the theater, right?
In the theater, yeah.
And then, so it's funny because I didn't, like I said, I'd only seen the film once before, and I don't think I would have even clocked this if you hadn't pointed it out. But and you did point this out to me that he, when he then goes to London and finds Dodd, he says, "In my dream, you said, you remembered where we met." And okay, I've just come up with the thesis. I like to advance theses that I've never seen before.
Sure.
Even if they're not cogent, because it's more fun that way. And I'm basing it on the fact that when he says that to Dodd immediately says, "Yep, you and I were mailmen in Prussia in the whatever
in Paris against the Prussians."
Yeah, against the Prussians, and we only lost 2 balloons out of 50 that we were sending across enemy lines, and the fact that here's my reading is that he actually has magic powers, because like a plausible interpretation of the scene is that he sent a message to his friend Quell psychically, and his friend arrived with the cigarettes that he asked for in the dream, and then Quell mentioned the thing that he said in the dream, and he immediately had a response for it, which was, "Yeah, I did remember, and this was the story." Now, okay, do I really believe that? No, but it is interesting, and I think it just really speaks to this idea of like him as this con man, this effortlessly light on his feet liar and con man, that he had the answer to that question right on the tip of his tongue. Because if that was just a dream, if it was literally just a dream that Freddie Quell had a dream that he thought was a sign that he needed to go to London, he goes to London, and then he says, "You said you remembered where we met," and then the guy just immediately has an answer. That's an amazing act of on the spot creativity. And the fun thing is that I have no idea which of those. I suspect that we're meant to just see him as a liar and a charlatan, but it's kind of funny to imagine that he's not, just for the sake of entertaining ourselves.
Mm-hmm. But he is. but he is. Like I just like, that's my interpretation. And what I love is that you can have either or both interpretations at the same time. But like, that's what I think it is like, I mean, it's so funny to reconstruct that entire scene with the knowledge that what Freddie dreamed, the entire phone conversation that Freddie had with him in the theater was a dream, because he shows up in London uninvited. Everyone's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And I think Amy Adams, Peggy's reaction to him kind of proves that out, because I think she asked him directly, like, "What are you doing here, Freddie? Like, what do you want? What are you hoping to get out of this?" And like a person who had just had a phone call with Dodd would say, "Well, he called me."
Yeah.
But then he shows up, he hands over the cigarettes, and Dodd is such a con man that he just rolls with everything.
Yeah.
It's like, does he remember the conversation about cools? Yeah, he probably does, but he just plays it off as like, "Oh yeah, you brought me these." And yeah, the second he mentions that, he spits something out. And I think he's just making it up, man.
Oh,
I
sure.
think he's just making it up. And I think Joaquin Phoenix knows he is. And that's ultimately why he leaves, is because he comes to get that question answered. And he watches as Dodd just spits out another round of bullshit. Just another round of bullshit. And he just doesn't buy it. He just doesn't buy it. Yeah. And so he says, "All right, I'm gone." And then Dodd decides to sing the song that he said was such a powerful song to him because it reminded him of Doris, which is either a kind thing to do or an incredibly fucked up thing to do to your friend. Maybe both at the same time.
I thought of it as just, he's a ham, right? He is a larger than life personality is the nice way to say it, but basically just the kind of person who can't really be genuine in a simple way. He couldn't just look at his friend Freddie and say, "I'm going to miss you, man. Our time together meant a lot. I feel like we had a connection." He is going to miss him. He does feel like they had a connection, but he has to express it by doing a ridiculous sort of theatrical thing like singing him a song. But that doesn't make it not earnest. So that's my interpretation of their relationship. Like they have a really interesting relationship that I feel like I've had, versions of this relationship. I was only half joking at the top of the podcast when I said it's about that dynamic between you and your friend who has way more charisma than you, because that it's basically like, that is a really interesting dynamic. Set aside everything about the cult and the the questions of like what in the movie is actually happening versus a dream. I actually think like the simple core of the movie, and this is also a thesis I haven't seen advanced many places, is just this like particular weird kind of friendship that happens sometimes, where one of the people in the friendship is a alluring peacock who people are drawn to because of their outsized charisma and ebullience and energy, and the other person in the friendship is a sewer rat who just crawled out of the sewer, and there's something that this we can all understand why the sewer rat looks at the peacock and thinks, wow, that's really compelling, I wish I was like that. What's less obvious is why the peacock looks at the sewer rat and says, wow, that's really compelling, I wish I could be like that. But that happens all the time, because because it's exhausting to be the peacock, and the peacock is often the prisoner of their own psyche. Like they have to be outgoing, they have to be charismatic because they have to be liked, and it's a huge burden to them. And that's why they're actually gravitated toward this other kind of personality type, because they're like, God, like I'm sure that you're being genuine at the very least, and it can actually be a positive type of friendship. I'm not even the reason for like me bringing all this up. I'm not even saying like, yeah, this is a teardown, this is an expose. It's like, no, it's actually just a kind of interesting and somewhat sensitive depiction of that kind of relationship. And it doesn't end with them having a horrible acrimonious breakup. It ends with them basically having a breakup where they realize like, okay, you're going to remain this cult leader, sort of trapped in this position where you have to be at the center of this cult, and kind of not even enjoying that. And Freddie is just like, that sounds like that would suck, and I don't want to do that, and I don't want to be part of that, and I'm going to go do my own thing and be a wanderer. And there's a wistful feeling of like, I wish I could keep you around for both of them, but they know that it can't work. And to me, that's like the heart of the movie that actually works for me, and maybe close to the reason why it lived in my head for 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, I love this, and I basically completely agree with you. Like I think this is just the core of the film, and it's why I love both of these characters who are so complex for different reasons. And I agree with you. Like you can completely understand. You have a character like Freddie who gets out of the military, has a massive alcohol problem, but also has a suite of other problems, right? Like has mental problems. He's fucked up.
He has anger problems.
Yeah, he has anger problems, right? And he is like, the war ends, and he is released by the military to start his life. And I love that speech where you're like, okay, now it's time to think about, start your life, start a business, or do this. And he's just this guy who has been horribly fucked up by this entire thing, and just has no drive or understanding or idea of how to like have a life like that now. And he finds a person like Lancaster Dodd, who is so charismatic and so willing to bring a person like him in and just say, here, I'm going to give you purpose and direction. I'm going to fix you, and I'm going to tell you where to go, and I'm going to tell you what to do. In many ways, it matches the military order that he had, right? So like that makes total sense, but he can't. Like he just can't. And it is ironic in many ways. Freddie is like the perfect cult member, and also the worst possible cult member. Like he is loyal to Dodd to a fault. He will beat the shit out of anyone who says anything bad about him, but he can't actually do it. He can't, like, all the things, even if they're made up bullshit things that Dodd is having him do, like he can't stick with that. It's impossible for him to.
Yeah. I think that his relationship with, the truth value of the cult's claims vacillates over the course of the movie.
Yeah.
I think I'm repeating some of your bullet points, honestly, but the idea, I think, is that he really wants to believe in the cult stuff because he wants to believe that he can be freed of his suffering and his. I think he's also afraid because I think he says at one point his mom was institutionalized.
Yeah.
And so he's I think afraid that he is also going to be, psychotic, and that's his future. And also he has these even more pressing and immediate problems, like you said, alcoholism, really bad temper. And he wants it to be true, but at no point in the movie does he actually get better.
Yeah.
The closest that he comes to getting better seems to be the periods of time when he doesn't seem to be drinking, which interestingly, the movie doesn't do. This is where I will probably just straightforwardly criticize the movie. Is I think it would be better if the storytelling around certain things like that were a bit clearer. If it was like, oh, okay, he actually does sort of temporarily get better when he stops drinking. That would be something that we could understand at least. But the reason he stopped drinking isn't because like the thetans are being excised from his body, audited from his body. It's because Amy Adams threatened him that they would kick him out if he didn't stop drinking, and even that didn't really stop him. I think it just kind of reined it in a bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and like I think he sees through all the bullshit like very clearly. I mean, this is the interesting thing about this movie to me, and okay, one of the million interesting things about this movie. Lancaster Dodd is such a fascinating character. You talked about him feeling trapped, and I think that is absolutely true. Like the name of the movie is The Master, and you could very easily just say, "Oh, well, that's Dodd." But well, is it? Who are Dodd's masters? Because I think he's not in control of much of his stuff either. Like either just like the direct kind of implication of how controlling Peggy is in the relationship, and how much of this is Peggy pushing this on and keeping this up, but also, like you said, the expectations on him, his extroverted need for validation in this way are his masters. Like I see this guy, and I think the movie kind of proves this out. This guy who like started this thing and like had some maybe had some interesting things to say about some stuff, about like I think he talks about like some of his early quotes we see is he talks just generally about life and the difficulties of life and things like that. And then people were like, "Oh yeah, interesting." And he just kind of started down this road, and then like everyone started worshiping him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this feels great. This feels awesome." And then at some point they were like, "Okay, now what? You asked all these questions, but do you have any actual answers for us?" And he doesn't. He doesn't have any answers to anything. And like, he writes the second book, which here's a point of clarification for you. Like, we're told that Freddy's presence and probably his booze, like spurs writing in Dodd in a way that we haven't seen in a while. Or we're told that like he's been like kind of has writer's block, but suddenly he's writing all the time. But then when it comes time to publish his second book, we go out in the middle of the desert and dig up some shit.
Yeah.
So like, was he actually writing?
I don't know, man. I don't know. The fact that the timeline is so weird is confusing, because it's like, well, maybe he wrote it and then he buried it in the desert, but why would he have buried it in the desert? The whole going to the desert scene, I feel, is such a Paul Thomas Anderson thing, because it's like, why would it be buried in a box in the desert?
Yeah.
And
well,
then,
he has that one moment where he first pulls it out, and then he waves Freddy down, like as if there's someone there like watching him or something.
Yeah. And I was going to point out that moment, because either that is a moment of pure theater strictly for Freddy's benefit, because no one else is there, to sort of give this impression of like, this book is the most important thing in the world, and it's actually plausible that maybe someone shadowed us to the hidden location of the buried manuscript, because it's the most important thing in the universe, and trillions and trillions of souls depend on it, and all of that. or he believes that,
Yeah.
which may be true. That's one thing that the movie I think also asks us to some degree is like, yes, Freddy wants to believe it, and maybe from moment to moment he even manages to, but maybe Dodd sometimes has the same relationship with it, where because so much of his life depends on this stuff. I don't think he completely disbelieves it. Let me put it that way. Like when he's doing the auditing stuff, I think that he thinks he's helping people.
Yeah.
I think that maybe he even actually believes this stuff about past lives, and it's entirely possible that he sort of like has hypnotized himself through using all of these, brainwashing slash hypnosis adjacent techniques into maybe having had some experiences that might have felt very persuasive to him. Like you can have mystical experiences doing, meditation and hypnosis type shit. And maybe he had some of these mystical experiences and he just believes what he saw so it's what makes it, I think, fun. I don't actually read the character of Dodd as like a 100% charlatan. I think that I think he's 90% charlatan and 10% actually kind of wants to do things for people, and or like he doesn't want to be a charlatan, but he has to be or something. I admit part of this might just be that Philip Seymour Hoffman plays it in such a compelling way that you want to you don't want to believe the worst of him.
I mean, what I love about this is kind of like the eternal question I've always had about these type of people, right? Like, I mean, let's just go ahead and say L. Ron Hubbard, right? Because this is a very clear Scientology analog. Like, did L. Ron Hubbard believe any of the bullshit that he spouted? Or did he the entire time know that he was just using people for money, right?
Yeah.
And kind of the same, like, please, I hope there's no Mormons listening to this, but like Joseph Smith is the same time, right? Like he goes out into the desert and pulls up these golden plates, right? Like, did he believe that story he was telling? Like, and maybe at first the answer was no, he knew, but then at some point, like you can convince you, like the human brain has this incredible ability to convince itself of something, right?
Yeah.
So like, at what point do you transition to that, if at all, ever? And like, I think the same thing, by the way, about like these mega church Christian churches in my state, where these multi millionaire church leaders, and I'm like, I bet on some level they still believe in God and Jesus and the Bible and the teachings of the Bible, but like they have to also like on some level know that they're full of shit, right? Like they have to,
maybe, yeah,
but maybe not.
I think human beings are operating a lot closer to a state of psychosis at all times than we want to admit. I always think about the story of, I'm probably going to get some of the details wrong, but sort of the moral of the story is true. I think it was either the Hale Bopp comet cult or it was some other doomsday cult where it was, it was a small cult, and the idea was, when this thing happens, whatever it is, if I don't remember if it was like the arrival of the comet or some other thing, when this specific event happens, that will be like the salvation, and like the shit's going to go down when this specific event occurs. And it, unusually among cults, it made a very specific claim, a truth claim about reality that could be falsified. Which you would think would be a pretty unusual thing, because it's like, well, yeah, the cult leader would be a fool to do that, because if they're a complete charlatan, then they would know that that's not going to happen. And what happened was, the event came to pass, the claimed supernatural thing didn't happen, and all of the cult members except for one of them immediately got up and left the room and never came back. And all the rest of them immediately started making excuses for why it was okay that this didn't happen. And this isn't just the leader making the excuses. This is the believers. So like that's one of the interesting facts about humans is, yes, Lancaster Dodd is part of this machine that's perpetuating the what do they call it? The Scientology is what it is.
What is it? What is it actually called? I forgot.
Yeah.
Some
It
dumb
doesn't
name.
it doesn't matter. And but like everyone around him, I think has an equally sort of twisted relationship. Like his children are probably in exactly the same state that he is, where it's like it's really important that we all agree to believe this. I mean, it's funny. So let me say this in an even more like provocative way. Like we were raised in religion, and like it wasn't like from moment to moment in our religious upbringing we were like thinking like, I better continue to pretend to believe in all this stuff. It's like, no, you if you're raised in it, if you're steeped in it, you just start to believe the things that you're intended to believe. Like that's how people work. And I think even he probably started to believe it.
Yeah, I mean that ultimately is my question though, because I agree with that and I believe that like that's the power of these movements and these cults. Is even if you get into it not fully buying into it, you find yourself. But like I've always questioned like the leader, like we do all this bullshit and then we go behind closed doors and are we like chuckling to ourselves about how we're getting one over on all the rubes? Like maybe some of them, but I don't know. I mean, one thing that I think is for sure is that Philip Seymour Hoffman does a fantastic job at making a person that is so charismatic, so like you just enjoy watching him speak. But then at the same time, he introduces like a very PTA brand of humor into some of the stuff he says sometimes. Like, okay, the thing I'm thinking about here is that second book launch when he's written the second book and he gets up to speak, and this is his presenting his new book, his new thing, and he here's what he says. He says, "Here we have some answers. No more secrets. The source of all creation, good and evil. The source of all." Now, funny enough, the source of all is you. I have unlocked and discovered a secret to the living in the bodies that we hold. And oh yes, it's very, 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 very serious. The secret is laughter. And you're just like, Dodd, what the fuck did any of that mean? What are you talking about? That's not even charismatic. That's just nonsense.
Yeah, I agree. So several times I've said stuff like, oh, he's just so charismatic. It's like he's charismatic, but also he's kind of a doofus.
Yeah.
Like that speech was cringy.
Yeah.
Watching him kind of in that parlor where the guy interrupts him by saying, excuse me. That's cringe. Like that's PTA cringe humor, which I now see as one of the things that he likes to do. Yeah. And his reaction to it is also not, like he's doing the thing where he's trying to sort of take the high ground of like, I am this mystic intellectual. I have all of the answers. Your challenges are so far beneath me. And the guy's really sort of, just relatively politely just kind of poking holes in what he's saying. Yeah. And then he calls him a pig fuck in response, which shows you like, yeah, that he's not this he's actually not this totally smooth customer that he presents himself as. He's actually kind of extreme. You don't snap and call somebody a pig fuck unless you've got like a chip on your shoulder and you're kind of an inch away from a blind rage at all times, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and he's doing a really bad job of debating that guy, right? Like, I mean, this is the interesting thing about, and I think it is kind of the way this movie almost backgrounds what I think is like people leaving his faith or whatever you want to call it. Because one of the things we see is like he's been on this yacht. He comes to New York. He goes to this extravagant party at this woman's house who is we're told the owner of the yacht. And then she kicks him out after this exchange with this guy, and then later sues him for stealing her money and also damages to the yacht and fuel for the yacht. So it's like, it feels like he's bouncing from place to place. And the longer people that have been indoctrinated in this thing hang out with them, the more they realize he's full of shit.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like, I mean, that's what happens with Laura Dern. Like we're led to believe Laura Dern is like one of his most stringent followers outside of the family itself. And she reads the second book and is like, hey, this directly contradicts the stuff we were talking about before. And he flips out at her.
Yeah.
And so you're just like, I bet she's done now.
Yeah.
And that just seems like to be what's happening. And it's because like it's so funny. Like, I think sometimes we just get swept up in people, that people can be in and themselves so charismatic that we stop listening to the words that they're saying. But that fades eventually. And like in his argument with that guy at the party, here's what he says at the end of it. Like he says, the guy challenged him and says, like, good science by definition allows for more than one opinion, right? Otherwise you have just the will of one man, which is the basis of a cult. And Dodd's response to this is, tis. And thankfully we all of us working at breakneck speeds in the unison towards capturing the mind's fatal flaws and correcting it back to its inherent state of perfection, while righting civilization and eliminating war and poverty and therefore the atomic threat. And it's like, huh? What?
Yeah.
What? And even the guy like laughs at that because he just worked A-bombs into it somehow.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's just an absurd word vomit to try to like overwhelm the guy. And I think it is kind of fascinating because if he is saying these things and everyone in this room like loves him and thinks he's a genius, there's actually a chance that this works, by the way. Like, that everybody's just like, yeah, idiot, get out of here. Great job, Dodd. You really told him with that stuff you said about the A-bomb. I'm not sure if I followed it, but it was definitely brilliant because you are a Lancaster Dodd. Like that, he's kind of always parlaying based on his reputation and the fact that he has this, this aura that he's cultivated, which I think he has cultivated in a very cynical and manipulative way. Like I love that you mentioned the yacht and all of that, because that was a connection I don't even know if I fully like processed. That like the happiest we see him in the whole movie is when he's on that yacht and it's like his daughter's wedding, and he just seems like genuinely happy. It's probably the most like purely charismatic that we see him, where it's not charisma contaminated with like obvious overt attempts at manipulation. It's just like he's happy. I love the note, that just the minor thing where when they bring Freddie to him when he's on the boat, and Freddie goes, he says, "This is your yacht, this is your boat," and Dodd goes, "I am its commander." Yes. And Hoffman gives this little blink when he says that, which I just love, because it's like, yeah, it's my yacht. Yeah, I'm its commander. Yeah, he's that. This is what he does, right? He gives this impression of power and wealth and stature, and people are drawn to that, to the point where they'll stand and watch a man pace back and forth across a living room hundreds of times, like watching it as if they're watching some revelation, some religious experience happening. And then he just randomly decides, "You did it, you completed it," and then everyone's like, "Yeah, that was amazing."
But nothing was done. Nothing was accomplished. Yes, I think you're right. I think one of the weird things, though, again, is, and maybe the point of that scene in particular is to show that all those New York socialites like realize he's full of shit, and that's why when we next see him, he's in Philadelphia and moving on. But like when he argues with that man in the room and ends on his atom bomb point, nobody does what you're describing. Is nobody goes like, "Oh yeah, get out of here." I mean, the only person that does that is Freddie, who just like throws something at the guy. So nobody has that reaction, and it is like that's a choice, right? It's a choice to do that. It's a choice to show that like he's gathering around a certain amount of people, but I think people like glom to him because of his natural charisma and then just kind of flake off as they realize how full of shit he is. And it's just like only his kind of like core family center that stays with him.
Yeah.
And even that we're not sure of, by the way, because at the very end of the movie, when Freddy shows up, he asks where Elizabeth is, Dodd's daughter, and Peggy says like she's at, I forget what the expression is, but like DCF, I think. He just says, "Where's Elizabeth?" And she says DCF, which is, I believe, is the Department of Children and Families, which is like a state department in states that help protect abused children.
I have no better explanation for this. It seemed weird to me.
And I don't know what to do with that because she was an adult. So are we saying she works for that department now, or that the state took her away? That wouldn't make any sense. She's a married adult woman. Or maybe she wasn't an adult. How old are people in this movie?
I don't know that. I mean, one thing is we don't see Rami Malek in that last part, but we do see Jesse Plemons.
Yeah.
And Jesse Plemons was the one who earlier in the movie was explicitly saying that his dad is full of shit, or I guess his dad, because his dad. Yep. But he's there now. And it's just like, I think this family just realizes this is a pretty good gig. This is a pretty comfortable gig being the cult leading family. Mm-hmm. And apparently it's interesting. It's unclear whether they have actually found the success that they're bragging about in England, or if they just are yet again sort of staying one step ahead of the law.
I mean, like they're in a very nice place, right?
Yeah.
Like, we were told on the phone, which was a dream, so who knows? That they opened a school there, so they have a school there, and place looks very nice. He's got a very large wooden desk in the middle of this very big room. It looks very important. It seems like the cult is doing very well, but as was established at the very beginning, this is all kind of an illusion. Probably doesn't own it.
I mean, I definitely am sympathetic to that, although I do wonder, like, Scientology did ultimately become an incredibly successful, for whatever that means in context of a cult. I mean, it has tens of thousands of members. It has tons and tons of money.
Does it have tens of thousands of members? It did at one point.
According to the Wikipedia, in 2014, it was estimated to have 30,000 members. Yeah, I mean, maybe it doesn't have that many anymore, but I wouldn't be surprised.
So, like, I don't think we can listen to anything they say, but
I mean, look, part of me doesn't want to believe that they have tens of thousands of members. Like, for sure, I don't want to believe that, but I don't think. I think humans are pretty susceptible to this stuff.
Yeah, they are. I mean, and what Scientology did so well is it like sought after very rich, powerful people that gave a whole lot of money, and Scientology used the fact that it's a tax exempt nonprofit, which is the funniest word in the world. And that, like, Scientology is rich because it bought up a lot of property, and it has like it took a lot of money from very wealthy people, and unfortunately some not very wealthy people. And then it heavily invested in real estate, and it just has some incredibly valuable real estate all over the world. That's why Scientology is rich. I mean, I think you're right. It's very plausible that this cult is just working, and it's very effective and doing everything it wants to do, which I think is almost a better interpretation, because it means that Dodd is even more trapped by it, like almost trapped by his success, right? Like, there's a version maybe where, Dodd and Freddy could be friends together if the cult fails and he has to go on the run. But he's trapped by the success of this thing.
Yeah.
And his wife, who is clearly the leader of the cult. And
yeah,
like Amy Adams, man, we haven't really talked about her. She does such a fantastic job in this, like, always being like the very quiet, demure, off to the side person, but then very clearly demonstrating how she is in command of so much of this, actually.
Yeah. And there's this real dark edge to her personality that we see through
Yeah.
the cracks. That I always love a good performance where there's tremendous darkness, but it's being hidden almost all the time.
Yeah.
That's way more fun.
It's so good, man.
You know,
Um,
I wonder if you had this. I always have this confusion where when I think about this movie, sometimes I confuse it in my mind with Synecdoche, New York, or
Okay.
and the reason is number one, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and number two is it does have this tone, but both movies have this tone, or maybe tone's not the right word exactly. This overall vibe of like, is this really quite real? Like, is this, because Synecdoche, New York is a Charlie Kaufman written and directed movie that is just like explicitly surrealistic.
Yeah.
And stuff makes no sense. Like a woman buys a house that is on fire, and then it stays on fire for like 30 years as she owns it, and it's just like, yeah, it's a metaphor. Like it's just it's full of metaphor and allegory, and it's not to be taken literally. And this movie is much less, in your face about its kind of surrealism, but it just feels surrealistic. I think some of that is what you were saying before about the fact that some of it is almost certainly a dream. But
I mean, like, part of this is the performance of Joaquin Phoenix, who just generally brings this surrealism feeling. But like, it's not even just his performance though, because I mean, obviously we are demonstrated that we are sometimes seeing through Joaquin's eyes, through Freddie's eyes, and the things that we're seeing are not actually happening, right? Like when Dodd is dancing with the women at the party, suddenly all the women are naked. That is not happening, right? That is Freddie, and his sexual compulsion is in his mind removing the clothes from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's so much in the early part of the story that, like, I'm like, did this happen? Like everything with Freddie working in the department store as a photographer, I am so incredibly confused on. Because like, I mean, the straight read is just like, yes, this all happens exactly as it is. He finds this woman, he and the woman have sex in the back of the, in the storeroom or whatever. And then they go on a date that he passes out at because he's a drunk. But like, she's also like a walking mannequin. Like it is her job to walk around with the clothes on and say, "Ooh, look at these good clothes." And there's a part, and I saw this on my second viewing, Matt. There's a part where like, as he's scanning by, I think when he's walking her out, when he gets in the fight and is quitting, that we scan by a mannequin that's wearing that exact same outfit. And so like, am I led to believe, am I supposed to doubt Freddie here in these moments and be like, were you really hooking up with these women? Or were you just like fucking the mermaid on the beach type thing? Like, was he just in the back room, like jerking off to a mannequin? Or was he actually hooking up with this woman? And I don't know. I don't know.
Right. The other moment, like sort of like this, is where Dodd's daughter seems to like make a pass at him, and
that is incongruous to everything we've seen with her up until that point.
It's almost like so the shot is of just like their shoulders and their mid torso and above, but it's almost like she's giving him a hand job sitting right there in the middle of the living room.
Yeah.
But then it abruptly sort of like stops and ceases to be the case, and it's like, oh, did the fantasy end?
Yeah.
And like his
facial.
Well,
then she gives him a look that's a confusion and uncomfortable, right? Like it starts with the shot starts with her putting her hand on his inner thigh,
right.
And then we cut away from the inner thigh and we see that mid shot. You're right. And then she gives him like a look, and he gives her a look. And then, we're led to believe maybe that's what's happening right now. But then, that abruptly stops, and the look she's giving him is one of discomfort. And then she says later, when they're talking about Freddie, she says to them, like, I think he's in love with me. It like, that could just be her lying. But I don't think it is. Like, I just don't think that actually happened. I just don't think she actually put her hand on his inner thigh in the middle of the room like that.
I mean, here's the crazy thing about this movie is it may have literally happened.
Sure.
And she the reason why she's like throwing him under the bus in front of the family and saying, "Oh, I think he's in love with me," is that she sees him as a threat to her, he's going to expose her or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like the movie never lets you feel sure about these things. I feel like this is constructed because it would be one thing if it was just like, Freddy is prone to hallucinations / delusions / fantasy. I mean, it could just literally just be fantasy. Like we don't have to say it's psychosis. He could just be fantasizing about women all the time, and we're seeing into his head. But the movie doesn't really it doesn't do any sort of editing trick or anything to suggest that.
Yeah.
So you're just left to. Another thing I noticed is at the end of the movie, he's having sex with this woman he meets at the bar, and then it's not like a smash cut, but it's kind of a sequence of cuts, and then we see him lying on the beach next to yet another sand woman that he has made out of sand, which is essentially starting and ending the movie with the same shot almost.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being a little hand wavy here, but it's very much intentional. He's ending up right where he began, and then it's like, wait a minute, was he even having sex with that woman, or was he just lying next to a sand sculpture that he made on the beach and fantasizing about that?
I admit that part of my doubt of all this stuff is that the way Joaquin Phoenix plays this character is he is so off-putting and weird and funny looking that I just have a very hard time believing he's just going to walk into a bar, point at a pretty girl, and then they're having sex. But maybe that's unfair. Maybe that's unfair of me. I'm not saying Joaquin Phoenix is an ugly guy. I don't think he is, but just like the way he holds himself, like he's hunched over, and like Joaquin Phoenix does this thing that I've seen him doing other stuff, but like I think one of his shoulders is just like permanently fucked up. So when he puts his hands on his hips, like he doesn't have like defined like shoulders.
Yeah.
It just kind of juts out in this weird way.
Yeah.
And it ends up making him look very, very odd. And I just have a hard time believing he's like this like whiz kid at women where he could just get any woman he wants, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I think you cast Joaquin knowing that you are not casting like a super attractive heartthrob.
Yeah.
Like he is kind of a weird looking guy. Like there's a reason you cast this guy to play Commodus. It's like, if anything, the crazy thing about this is that he played a character in the movie Her, like right after this, and he seems like 15 years younger.
Yeah.
And just like vastly more, warm and human. And it's just like, oh my God, like that this one of my favorite, movie to movie transformations of any actor ever, honestly.
Yeah. How the fuck old is he supposed to be in this movie? Like, how old is he supposed to be? Because he looks like he's 40 something.
I mean, yes, he has these. Honestly, I don't know how they do this, because in this movie he has these like deep like grooves in his face.
Yeah,
I mean he looks. I would say he looks 50. We're 40. Fair, I don't have these like weather worn like lines cut into my face. But he does in this movie. But then those lines are gone in the next movie he's in. So where did those lines come from? Are they makeup? I mean, did he just lose a lot of weight? I actually don't know.
I mean, and it's like the thing about it is, I think the Doris scene like sums up everything we're talking about here. We're just like, what am I supposed to believe here? Because we do this thing where we're introduced to the Doris scene through his processing with Dodd, right? He goes through this round of questions and he says, close your eyes. And then we cut to the Doris scene and seeing Freddy sit on a bench next to this woman, this girl, not even a woman. She looks 12. The movie says she's 16, and I believe the movie, but in my eyes, she looks like 12 and he looks like 50. And it's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. Cause I'm like, this is the girl, Freddy, this child.
Yeah.
And like, one thing is, the movie is like very kind of careful at how it doles out this information to us. So like the assumption you make when you have a soldier saying he's got a girl waiting for him back home is that like this was his girlfriend, and then he went to war, and then he came home hoping that she was waiting for him. But the implication of the movie, and tell me if you agree with this or not, is they were from the same town. She wrote him a letter while he was overseas. And that was basically their first interaction. Because there's a line that really stuck out to me where he asks her, he's like, "Oh, did like your class have you write letters to soldiers?" And she's like, "No, I wanted to write you specifically." And like, that's not a thing that you would say to like your girl, right? And of course, he doesn't know how old she is. He doesn't know what grade she's in. And
right. No, it's like I think maybe the implication here is like, this is the only woman who has ever actually shown interest in him, actually.
Yes.
And the other ones are just fantasies. Now, there's another, I will admit that's not necessarily that's not necessarily what I walked away from the movie thinking. What I was thinking was more like this was like, in his mind, this was his one chance at a normal life.
Sure.
And he had a shot at it, but due to some combination of his feeling like a fraud and feeling scared of being tied down and feeling like, anxiety around intimacy, he ran away from that. Instead of accepting it, he said, you know what, I'm going to take another job on as a seaman, and I'll come back later. And then he just kind of held this in his mind as like a fantasy of like, one day I'll go home to my girl. My girl's waiting for me back home. And to him, that was more comfortable than actually being with her. And so it served this vital psychological role to him of being like, yep, I got a girl waiting for me back home. But then it turned out like, no, you're full of shit. This is delusion.
I think that's fair.
I guess I just realized while saying that, like, nothing I just said really contradicts what you were saying either. It's just, okay.
Yeah, just like the actual scenes we see of that playing out are so elusive to me. Of like they're definitely like, it's not that I don't think she's into him, but like that scene on the bench is kind of so awkward. And I think it's just awkward because she's a child who's never had a boyfriend, and there's this extremely older man sitting next to her on a bench. And then we cut to her singing to him. And like, you could tell me that like 2 of these scenes actually happened, and then the singing one was made up in his mind. You could tell me that only their initial meeting and the other 2 never actually happened. You could tell me that all 3 of them never actually happened. I have no fucking clue. But I mean, I think ultimately, like, what you're saying is true, that this was in his mind the chance at normalcy, and he just could never do it. Like, and it makes you wonder, like, if he had gone back in 1950 and she wasn't married with children, like, he probably wouldn't have still stuck around then anyway. Like, I don't think he can stick around. I just think sticking around is not a thing Freddie is capable of.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's, his defining trait. The thing about him that Dodd is fascinated with, by the way, like Dodd definitely immediately sees something about him that's compelling to him in the same way that he is kind of drawn to Dodd. And I think that is the fact that he is this wanderer who is just never going to be content. And that is romantic and compelling to Dodd, even though it actually is not necessarily a pleasant way to live. And I think that's. Yeah. I think you're right. I just think you're quite simply right about that.
Oh my gosh. I just want to say, we've been talking about this movie for like an hour, and I feel like I have not said anything.
Yeah. Well, here's something of real substance. I called Joaquin Phoenix a guy who kind of looks like a sewer rat a while ago.
You did.
And then I was just like Googling him, and I was like, okay, he dated Liv Tyler, and he's married to Rooney Mara.
I didn't know that.
He's basically just dated only extremely beautiful star women. So maybe women really do love Freddie, because I mean, he's like, I don't know, Joaquin Phoenix himself is like a very fascinating person, right? Like, he's and I think when he's not like emaciating himself and acting like half his face is paralyzed, I don't think he's a bad looking dude. Certainly. I just think this character
the way he's playing this character and the way he is
Yeah.
really committing to this character is a very weird looking off-putting guy.
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree. I was being a little tongue in cheek there. I just this character, yeah, he's gross. He's like, his hair is always lank.
Yeah.
He's standing weird on purpose. Like I mean, there's that scene in the bar we were just talking about where, he's coming on to this woman. It's like he's making this unpleasant, creepy leer at her.
Yeah.
And she's doing the like coquettish smile back at him. And
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, man, like I watched this movie once a long time ago, and absolutely none of this was in my mind. The idea that these things weren't happening. I was just like, okay, I guess there's something alluring about this guy. Dodd saw something alluring in him, not sexually. I mean, I guess we should mention lots of reviewers take their relationship as being centrally a homoerotic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I don't see what they're pointing at. It's just like, I think it's much more, much simpler to just say like, they're obsessed with the quality that the other has that they lack. It's not that they want to have sex. It's just they want to be the other person.
I don't think it's sexual. I mean, like, I think there's a lot of sexual stuff in this story, but I don't see it that way. And I completely 100% see why people do. But yeah, that's just not my read on it. And even if that's true that it is sexual in nature, I ultimately think that's just like the means to an end of what we're saying about these two people.
Yeah.
That it's irrelevant essentially.
Right. But to get back to the thing I was saying about like maybe that was my original read of the movie, is simply that like there's something ineffably alluring about this man, this wanderer, and people are drawn to him even though he seems gross. Mm-hmm. That's at least plausible. But now that we're having this conversation about stuff not being real, I'm forced to consider that as a possibility. I don't know if I buy it either. I mean, we've had a nice conversation about this where we sort of like we're good at sort of like putting on the lenses of a particular read, and then we just proceed with that to explore it. But I don't actually know that I'm sold on the idea that the movie is full of unannounced dream sequences. I don't
know if I am either. And there's part of me that just says like, maybe we're just overthinking this movie, which is just very simply this like weird as fuck character study. And that's all it is. Like just a series of weird things that happen where we're just supposed to be like, man, this is a pretty movie and these performances are crazy. And that's it. Like, I mean, the fucking desert sequence with the motorcycle is like, has nothing to do with anything.
It's so funny
except that it's objectively hilarious.
Uh-huh.
Like it's Philip Seymour Hoffman doing what he does best, as like you see the look on his face as he realizes Freddy isn't going to come back.
Uh-huh.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. No,
but yeah, great. I mean, there's part of me that wonders if I sat down Paul Thomas Anderson, who, by the way, like pretty famously doesn't talk about his movies and what they mean at all. Like I think he did very early on in his career, but I think by this point in his career, he just doesn't really. He wants the movies to speak for themselves, and he won't say anything. But like I just feel like a version, if he was forced to be honest with us about it, would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? It didn't happen. Who cares? I wasn't even thinking about that. And I'd be like, well, what about the phone call in the theater, Paul?
Yeah.
And he'd be like, yeah, I just wanted the movie to be kind of quirky and surreal. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's possible that we're bending over backwards to make sense of something that's just sort of supposed to be taken as surrealism.
Mm-hmm. I guess what I'll say is I don't, to clarify myself, like I don't think a person as obsessed with sex as this character is, like, would have trouble finding people willing to have sex with him.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't buy it in the manner in which it's demonstrated to us in the film.
Sure. I think that's accurate, right? I think, yeah. You can always find a match, right?
Right.
But I agree with you that the idea that these women are throwing themselves at him is weird.
Well, I mean, it's established that he's a rapist that raped his aunt when he was
Yes.
younger, right? So like
Yes.
he seems to have no qualms about just taking what he wants when he wants it. And so part of the delusion could be maybe he is sleeping with these women. It's just they don't want to, and we're seeing things through his perspective, and he doesn't see it that way. I have no idea. I'm just making shit up now, but
Yeah.
that's the confounding mystery of this movie.
Do you think he actually intentionally poisoned that guy in the beginning of the movie?
Maybe.
Yeah. This is where I am. This is where I am too. Where I'm like, he says to the guy, okay. Without this scene where he says to the guy, "You look like my father."
Yeah.
I would have just been like, no, it was an accident. He's mixing up these obviously poisonous and toxic drinks, and then people are drinking them, and every once in a while, you're going to hit somebody who maybe doesn't have a fully functioning liver, and it's going to either kill them or badly harm them.
Yeah.
But because of the scene where he said that about his father, you're like, oh, maybe he probably hates his father. And then that casts some interesting light on his later relationship with Dodd, where that's sort of honestly, that they seem to be pretty similar in age. So the father-son thing doesn't, that's another thing. I saw a lot of criticism along the lines of like, this is like a father-son relationship. And I'm just like, they seem too close in age for it to really work as a father-son thing. They seem like they're almost the same age. That's why I read it as a friendship, as like a sort of weird asymmetrical friendship.
Yeah. I mean, there's moments where like they're like sharing the hooch that he's made for him, that like that doesn't come off as father and son, that comes off as like two buddies. Like even I think people the moment where Freddy comes back and they like tackle each other in the front lawn, like a lot of people read the homoeroticism to that, but I think that's just like two morons like being silly. I don't read the father and son part of it. Like, I mean, I think it is an intentional design of the movie that we are left uncertain on what Freddy's age is, because like there's a part of you that like all the men he's surrounded with look like very young men, like the type of young men you would see in the army, right?
Yeah.
But it was World War II, and so a lot of older men, older like 30s in their 30s, were drafted, right? So like it is plausible in this war that he's just supposed to read as someone in their 30s or 40s or 50s. I don't know. I don't know, and I don't think we're supposed to know.
God, I feel this has been such a strange conversation, honestly. I didn't expect, I feel like, you know, when you're using a microscope and you're kind of turning like a couple of knobs to get the thing in focus, but then sometimes you really fuck up and you, and you're like really far away from being in focus, and you can't, so far away that you can't even tell if you need to zoom in or zoom out. I feel like that's I feel like that's where I am with this movie.
I have zero definitive statements to make about this movie, right? Like I just like everything we've talked about for the last hour. I just I could be 100% correct or 100% wrong, and I'm not confident either way to say it factually. Here's what I'll say. The definitive statement I can make about this movie is I love this movie, and I love that it can spawn a conversation like this, where we are really trying to get to the bottom of what we think it's saying and doing. And I mean, maybe ultimately, like, you know, not every movie needs, this is going to be a wild thing I'm about to say, but not every movie needs like a theme or like a main idea. Like it could ultimately just be as simple as what you said, where this is just a movie about two characters that get sucked in orbit around each other and just fascinate each other. And we see the way the world reacts to that and the way that they react to each other, but ultimately slingshot each other separate ways into space.
Mhm.
And that's it. That's all it is. There's no greater point here to be made. Like, I mean, the Scientology thing is interesting because I obviously think like Paul Thomas Anderson is sprinkling in obvious critiques about Scientology in this movie, right? Like it is the analog for everything that Dodd is doing is L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology.
Yeah.
But like the movie really isn't about the cult.
Right.
And like, so if he wanted to make a movie that says, here, let me show you how fucking stupid Scientology is, he could have done that. And by the way, Tom Cruise, his very good friend, he showed him this movie in a personal screening.
Uh-huh.
And so like there, can we go so far as to say that like in the mind of Paul Thomas Anderson, Tom Cruise is the charismatic like person that everyone wants to be around, and he, Paul Thomas Anderson, is the Freddy, and he made this movie kind of to show his his charismatic, powerful friend that, hey, sometimes like you seem like you're kind of full of shit, and I think I feel that you might be kind of trapped in this. And like,
oh my God,
maybe making this movie about this is like my way of being like, hey, like you can, you can leave,
right?
You could come, be like, don't be like Dodd, be like Freddy.
Yeah, or just like some, I really feel like the Freddy in this situation in that,
yeah,
I love you and would love to spend time with you, but you're sort of too invested in this weird thing over here that I can't really be a part of.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. I love this. I love this so much. For the record, I agree with what you said a minute ago that like I love this movie, even though like narratively it doesn't kind of gel. Yeah. I think that's the weird thing about like you and I, we both really like narrative, we like all the aspects of storytelling, but kind of our favorite thing to do is to just like dissect and examine a narrative. And when the narrative is confusing, it really bugs us, and then we spend a lot of time trying to figure it out. But like like every, and I said this before, like every individual scene taken on its own as a vignette is masterful. Like it stays with you. It's legitimately great. And so like if we had a time machine and we could go back and just say like, okay, this is the rule for the podcast, is what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about our favorite like 5 or 10 scenes, just in whatever order. And we're just going to talk about that scene. And then we're going to talk about a different scene. And then we're going to talk about a different scene. That would have been like a totally different conversation, because none of this stuff would have even come up. It would have just been like the dynamics of this scene and the characters and the interesting dynamics and the undercurrents of things that are happening. And and I to some, I wonder if I want to say this, like to some degree, I think maybe this is something like Paul Thomas Anderson's approach to filmmaking. Not that he's not also good at making narrative films, but like, for example, Boogie Nights, we borderline complained about the sort of weird pacing, and I don't know if we called it a sense of disjointedness at the time, but in retrospect, looking at that movie sort of through the lens of this movie, it is kind of temporally disjointed. There's a narrative through line to it. It's definitely not, surrealistic, but it does feel at times that you're like, where are we in the journey exactly? And whose journey are we on exactly? And when are we?
Yeah.
And then there's stuff like Magnolia, which really is quite a almost, there's literally no sense of like one coherent timeline to that movie at all. It's just a bunch of vignettes. So
I think it's true. I think I felt this way about all his movies. I just feel it most this way about this movie. That this general like, and it's even hard to like put a finger on what exactly is happening, but it's just like this general feeling of I always feel kind of overwhelmed by the world and the story we're in, because it doesn't cohere in a way that I am 100% comfortable with, like always, like across all of his movies.
Yeah.
Where I'm always like, well, wait, where did I feel that a lot. And I think that's just his method of storytelling for sure.
We certainly talked about this with There Will Be Blood too, where it's like, wait a minute, how much time just passed? And like you have to almost like scrounge for clues to figure out where you are and what happened in the interim.
Yeah. I guess that's as good of a place as any to wrap the conversation up, right? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Don't know how to pull this thing into a landing.
It doesn't really have a place for us to stick the button to say we're done.
Yeah.
So let's just say that's it.
Yeah. So glad. Very fun conversation. Honestly, did not know what to expect out of this episode or this conversation. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope the folks listening at home enjoyed it as well.
Me
I have
too.
no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master. The next PTA film coming up will be Inherent Vice. Man, I barely remember that one. That's one I saw one time when it came out, and I just don't remember much about it. So I'm looking forward to revisiting that one.
Cool. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. We're down to 3. We're down to 3 more films. We've got Inherent Vice, and then we've got Phantom Thread, and then lastly we have the one that I've never seen, which is oh my god, what is Licorice Pizza? Licorice Pizza. Yep.
And I believe we're taking next week off.
We are. Yeah. We will not be back next week to cover Inherent Vice. That'll be 2 weeks from now. We are going to the annual Doof retreat that we have for all of our employees, which is the 2 of us.
Yep.
Yeah, Matt and I will be hanging out next week and next weekend, so we won't be able to record this podcast, but we will probably have some bonus stuff coming out of that weekend for y'all. We're bringing cameras and microphones and all the good stuff, so we'll see what happens. Should be a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is going to be the podcast for this week. I think we spent enough time talking about this. We can just wrap this one up. If you have any opinions on The Master, oh my gosh, more than ever, please reach out. I want to know what this movie means to you. I want to know what you thought of it. I want to know what you thought of what we thought of it. Please reach out to us. You can find us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com, over on Twitter @doofmedia, Instagram @doofmedia, and Reddit. That's reddit.com/r/doofmedia.
Yes.
Check it. Let us know, please.
Yes, please help.
Yeah.
If you're not already subscribed to this podcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, YouTube, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
And if you like what we do here and want to support us, please consider heading over to Patreon. It's patreon.com/doofmedia. It is the platform that you can donate money to join our community, and you help us afford everything. You can also get a whole bunch of bonus content. We have our newest episode of 2, a From podcast that just released a couple days ago. And I believe, Matt, if I'm wrong about this, tell me, but I believe you're going to have a new episode of Freeman Bros coming out pretty soon.
That is correct.
Right?
That is correct.
Yeah. Great. So there's that bonus content out there, a bunch of other bonus stuff. We got our book club coming up. It won't be next week because, like we said, we'll be out. It'll probably be the week after. I believe the 8th of August will be our book club.
Yep.
And you can participate in that and all that over at Patreon as well. So it's patreon.com/doofmedia.
Yep. Also, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Each review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here. And we really appreciate that to boot.
Yeah. All right, folks. Next week, as we said, we'll be off, but we'll be back in 2 weeks for Paul Thomas Anderson's Inherent Vice, a movie that I hope makes a little bit more sense than this one. Or maybe I hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
We'll see you then.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.